Hi, this is Jeff Blankenberg. I'm going to be showing a very quick demo of something you can do in Expression Blend to make your life a lot easier when working with data. A lot of times we have an application that we're starting to build, but we don't maybe have the database yet, or maybe they're still working on it. And so what we can do is use something called sample data in Expression Blend to get us moving without having to worry about the database being fully baked. So I'm going to create a new Windows Phone application here. We're going to use this as our demo. And once we have our template up and loaded, you can see that I have just my base Windows Phone application template. What I want to do is go ahead and add a list box to my page. So I'm just going to take a list box and throw it on here. And I'll resize it a bit so it takes up most of my screen, like so and like so. And what I want to do with this is get some data into this box. So if you come up here to the Data tab, one of the things that we have is this option called Create Sample Data. And so what I'm going to do is go ahead and click that, and I'll choose New Sample Data as my option. We have to give it a data source name. So in the example of my application here, we're going to build a furniture store. So I'll just call this Furniture. Think of this like your database name. Another important checkbox to keep active is Enable Sample Data when application is running. This allows us, when running our app in the emulator or other places, to be able to see this data shown there as well. So we'll go ahead and use that, and we're keeping our scope at the project level rather than just this document. So you can see that now it's created what basically looks like a database schema. I have a database called Furniture, I have a collection, think of this like a table, and then I have two properties. These would be the columns of that table. So for collection, I'm going to rename this to Chairs. And for property, we're going to rename these two, and then we'll create a couple more as well. So for property 1, we'll call this SKU. For property 2, we'll call this price, and then we're going to add a couple more. You can do that with this this add simple property here. I'm just going to click that twice to add two more, and we'll do description, and finally we'll do image, because we're going to want images of each of our products. So by default it just gives me a random value, and so I want to make sure that I change the properties of each of these. So for description, I want this to be a string, and I just want it to use standard lorem ipsum text. You can see I have a bunch of choices here. And I want my maximum word count to be 20 and maximum word length to be 8. That'll kind of look like a paragraph. That works pretty well for me. The next one is image. You can see that if I come into my types here, one of them is image, and I can specify a location. I'm not going to do that for now, but I want to make sure that, that you see that you can specify your own location. I'll show that at the end. And then we have a price. We're going to come in to, you would think to come into number, but number actually only gives us a number of digits as an integer. This probably should be integer as the description. But if we come into string, you'll see that we have a price down here, and it actually adds dollar signs and decimals and all that for us. And then finally SKU, I want this to be that number value, and I want all my SKUs to be 6 digits long. So there you go. We've created a simple data model, and now if you come up here and click on Edit Sample Values, you'll see that I actually bring up an exact replica of that database with a bunch of fake data inside. So you can see that I have descriptions here, I have images, I have prices, and I have SKUs. And you'll notice that with this set of sample data, I have a whole bunch of pictures of chairs, and it just randomly has spotted them in there. And you can see that just by using this, I can scale it up, and now I have a much, much larger set of data. But again, it's all just randomized. It's a way for us to see what our app is going to look like before we have any real data. So someone at this point is thinking, how in the world did he get chair images into his chair database without really doing anything? This is the clever part of my demo where I tell you that it's always chairs, and I just built a demo to make it seem like I was doing something amazing. So regardless of what you name your table or anything like that, you'll always end up with this same sample set of chairs. But if you do want to change that, which is perfectly fine, what we can do is come into image, and we choose a location. And in this location, I'm going to come in here to my computer, and we'll go into my Dropbox, and I think that I have some icons here that I can use. We'll use that as my folder. And now you can see that when I look at my sample data, instead, it's got a bunch of icons that I use that are directly from my computer. So this is another way that you could use actual images that you wanted to use instead. And so we've got this sample data, but we haven't done anything with it yet. So I'm going to take my chairs table, basically, and I'm just going to drag that right onto my list box that we created earlier. You can see that it's automatically just funneled that data right into what we're using there. And it's created a nice little template for us. So in order to edit that template, we actually need to dive in a bit. So if I right-click on my list box, one of the options I have down here is Edit Additional Templates, and it generated items, and then I'm going to edit the current template. And so now what you'll be able to see is that my template is made up of a stack panel, a text block, an image, and 2 other text blocks, which is what we see here. So if we want to move things around, for example, let's say we don't want this to be a stack panel, or I'm sorry, let's say that we want to take the image and we actually want that to be first. We can just drag that up a little higher or drag this down. It'll shift things around. We want our font size to be a little bit bigger and more prevalent. We can come in here and make this maybe 24-point font, and maybe the skew is a much smaller value, so we'll take that down to about 8 points. And we also want our price to be red so that everybody can see exactly what it is. You can see that in here I'm actually editing this very specific template, and it allows us to move all of these at the same time. If I want my images to be bigger, you'll see that as I scale this one, they all get bigger. So I am actually editing a specific template, not just the individual layout of my page. And so if I save this and I run it in the emulator, which I'll hit F5 for, I've started my emulator improperly. Let me close this down and try it again. Okay, we'll start it up again. And this time we should have the emulator pop up on the screen here in a moment. There we go, and you can see that it's connecting to the device, it's loading my application on there, and that should load here in just a second. And so now we have a nice scrolling list of all of the data that we've created in that sample data app. And it's very nice, it's very smooth, and it's using all of the data values that we've specified. So there's a quick little example of how you can use sample data in your Windows Phone applications. I hope this helps.